This is an incredibly influential film.
Absolutely. Every little moment works perfectly. It only gets better each time you see it.
Hidey-ho!
It is the definition of filmmaking at its best.
And it just lights up the screen. It kind of blows all the competition away. It's essential.
Brad, of all the movies you picked to be on the Essentials this season, in many ways this is the most remarkable, I think, because by 1931, there may have been some confusion in the beginning, some doubt, but sound had won, and sound was clearly here to stay.
Yes.
And Chaplin makes this anyway.
Yeah, and he is quoted as saying that, you know, I give sound 3 years, and then it'll be all over, and, you know, man, was he wrong. I think he was thinking of sound as a gimmick and not as a part of the art, which it definitely is. His last film in the silent era was considered to be The Circus, even though sound had just started with Jazz Singer. And he decided to make this, as you said, a silent film anyway. And in many ways, it's his best film and has one of the greatest endings that's ever been in any film.
It's been 89 years since City Lights was released, but so much of the movie industry has not changed. One of the reasons why Chaplin was hesitant to go to sound was because good silent picture has universal appeal, he said, both to the intellectual and the rank and file. And he said he was determined to continue making silence into the sound era. And then this is the best, I love this. He goes, besides, I was a pantomimist, and in that medium, I was unique, and without false modesty, a master.
Wow.
And like, it's okay for Charlie Chaplin to call himself a master of silent film. Like,
right.
I like hearing that when somebody that competent, that good at what they do, recognizes this is what I'm good at, and I don't want to do anything else. I want to do the thing I'm great at.
Right. Well, it's also, if you know anything about Chaplin, you know how hard he worked to get those moments to work. I mean, City Lights is, when you see it, it seems like a fairly simple movie, but it was in production a long time.
3 years.
And he used to burn all of his outtakes. And there was a trove of them that was discovered, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago or something. But he wanted these things not to exist, but they kind of show his working process. And he would get things that he thought would be good to develop a gag with, and then he would experiment with the cameras rolling and try it this way, try it that way. There's one series of outtakes that he has for an early silent where he has an early version of an escalator. And he buys this thing, puts it in there, and then on film, he explores things he can do with the escalator. And he's sitting there with a full crew sitting around. Now, that's economically maybe not the greatest thing to do, but he was wealthy enough at that point that he could sit there and explore. And the films are amazing because of it. He tries and tries to get the most out of every moment, and when he gets it, he moves on to the next.
And he didn't have a backer. He had his own studio, so whatever
United
money...
Artists was part of his.
Right, so whatever money he was wasting was essentially his own.
Right.
Which made him a rarity.
Right, and he had control that Keaton never really did.
No, definitely, no question, yeah. And, but he, you know, he loved doing the extra takes. He was William Wyler, not Clint Eastwood.
That's right, yeah.
We'll talk more about that after we see this masterpiece from Charlie Chaplin. Here it is from 1931. City Lights. That last shot considered one of the great moments in movie history, not merely silent movie history.
Yes, if you see the film leading up to it, even when you re-see it, that moment gets to you. If you see it isolated without having seen the movie, it doesn't have the power. But in its place in the movie, it short strokes the experience of the movie. So if you've seen the movie and felt all that that moment evokes, it's easy to remember it later. And it is one of those moments.
He struggled in how to cast the blind girl, eventually settling on Virginia Sherrill, who he knew but had not worked with before. He was very tough on her. We'll get to that in a moment. But although his moment, that close-up of him, is what's famous and it's moving, I think her moment of realizing that it's him, the moment where she
nailed it.
Oh, she totally nails it. And without that, then his thing doesn't work. So I just think Virginia Sherrill deserves more credit than she gets for being part of a great scene.
And it's hard to portray blindness in a way that doesn't seem affected. And I think she does that very well. And I think he sensed that she could do that well. And when you read about it, apparently, you know, he was for her and against her, and she's in the film, she's out of the film. All right, come back to the film. So I think they had a rocky relationship.
He fired her because she, first of all, she couldn't eat in the dining room. She had to brown bag her lunch, and then she was 5 minutes late coming back from lunch, and he fired her. When he yelled at her, she yelled back, and then he fired her, and then he tried to recast it and realized, oh, well, this is more trouble than it's worth.
He's already got so much footage.
And so he calls her back, and then she's like, I'll need my pay doubled. So,
yeah,
and it worked. So
yeah, but you know, I think he was right, obviously, in casting her, and she's wonderful in the role.
Yeah, and
The Drunk Millionaire is pretty good too.
oh, the Drunk Millionaire's good. The boxer's
Great.
and the referee's great. I mean, that's all the boxing. So she said about the boxing scene. She said, look, Charlie didn't really like me, and I didn't really like him, but she said, the boxing scene, everybody, his friends came and gathered around.
To be extras?
Yeah, to be extras and just to watch, right? Even if they were, and over the days that they shot that was just full of laughter and joy, and he loved it and she loved it. Like, that was the lighthearted moment in the production, which makes the enjoyment for us now of that scene, I think it enhances it to know that they got that this was good.
Yeah, and the film has a style to it, you know. Chaplin presented things simply. He didn't do tricky shots like some other people, but he had a very clean visual sense. And I say this a lot about these movies, the essentials, but it ages very well. The opening title card of City Lights in Lights is a strangely modern-looking, cool way to open a movie, and I like that. I like the visual cleanness of his comedy.
Brad, thanks very much. Here's a look at what's coming up next week on The Essentials with Brad Bird. North by Northwest from 1959.
Cary Grant is kind of the ultimate Hitchcock lead, and his scenes with Eva Marie Saint are just fantastic.
Movies sometimes telegraph that violence is coming, it's night, it's a dark alley. Hitchcock turns that on its head.
If you took Hitchcock and multiplied it by Hitchcock, you would get North by Northwest.
That's next Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Continue the conversation on Facebook and Twitter using the hashtag TCM Essentials. Thanks for joining us for The Essentials.